Now let's
jump into Trump and Cyrus and some of the recent things. Let's first cover what happened in Venezuela real briefly and talk about Maduro a little bit because this is a very controversial thing. What are your thoughts?
Well, from a Bible believing position, I don't know exactly where you would stand on it, but as an American, number one, he was a narco terrorist. He was pumping drugs in our country left and right. Number two, whenever we helped develop their economy in the 20th century for this oil, we kind of got shafted on that deal. We developed we brought in all the equipment and everything to develop this crude oil that they had, and so as an American, do we have a right to it? I believe we do. I mean, you can say, well, we're American. The thing about it is America is the world police, whether you like it or not. I mean, that's just the truth of it. And we can say, well, we need to stay out of the affairs of other countries, and I agree to an extent. However, Venezuela, he's not a legitimate president. He's a communist.
There's not been an actual election in 20 years.
Yeah,
I realize that.
And
he's a dictator.
He's a communist dictator, and he is going to be tried in an American court for his crimes in the United States, and him and his wife both. And it is, and if you look at the Venezuelan population reaction, they're 100% for it. They're so glad that this guy's out of there, and we're going to set up a government that they can vote for and have an actual president and have a republic and a democracy, and America's going to benefit from it because we're getting ready to take all their oil, and we're not going to take all their oil, but we're going to set up a way where we can establish to harness this oil, and it was going to China. The oil was going to China because Venezuela was in with China, and then you've got Cuba, who's also most of the people that were guarding Maduro when he came in were Cubans.
Yeah, so Venezuela is a sponsor state for Cuba.
Yeah, exactly.
Or maybe I have that the other way around.
Yeah, Venezuela has the money because they have the oil. And then I like the fact that Trump goes in there and says, hey, we're going to take this oil because we want it, basically, and we deserve it because we helped. Basically, back in the 20th century, America built the structure. What's I'm not even the word I'm looking for. But the stability and the ability to harness this oil they had.
Infrastructure.
Infrastructure, that's what I was looking for. They built the infrastructure because it was an agrarian society, and they found all this crude oil that was extremely heavy, and you had to have certain oil refineries to be able to even harness it. Certain oil refineries couldn't do it. And then with Maduro cutting off Texas, and Texas had refineries that we were refining their oil, and he was cutting them out of the deal. There's a lot of political stuff at hand. But I think it's good for the American people. I think it's good for our country, and I think it's good for the Venezuelan people. And if you ask,
they're happy about it.
They're happy about it. The Venezuelan population in the United States is parading in the streets. I mean, I've seen video after video after video.
We'll play some of those by the way.
Of them going and talking to their grandma, saying, "Hey, Maduro was captured by the United States." Blah blah blah. And then number 3, just on a male perspective, I think it's freaking cool that we just went in there in 3 hours, just took down the president, a communist dictator, and we just showed our power to the entire world. Said, "Hey, we're still the baddest dudes on the block, and don't mess with the U.S." And as an American, I like that. And as a man, I like it. And I think the world is a better place when America's strong.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And why is the world a better place when America's strong? Because once again, America was built on this. Now America don't believe this anymore.
No, I mean traditionally don't. But there's still a strong Christian.
There's still pockets, and there's still why do we feel the way we do? Why, you look at all these other countries. You look at Europe, even you look at Roman Catholic Canada. You look at all these other places. Why is it that they're all so upset about this right now, by the way? Why are they so against it, but you got pockets in America who aren't?
Yeah. And the American people.
And the ones who are in America who are upset about this, look at who these people are.
Yeah. They are against this because they hate Trump. They had no problem with Obama bombing Libya.
No.
And they didn't because it's Obama. They don't care. Because if Trump does something, they're against it, and that's the bottom line.
Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah, they hate Trump.
A lot of Bible believers have now too.
But let's get into some of the stuff with the parallels between.
I got
Donald
one more thing here. Here's a few notes I got on this subject with hold on a second. We're gonna edit all this out. Okay, so this is not about Maduro being taken down. So what's interesting is, Chuck Schumer is?
Yeah.
In 2020, he criticized Trump for not bringing an end to the Maduro regime. That was a criticism of him. But now that Trump did,
Or no,
2026, he's
bringing it into
criticizing.
it. You said bringing it into
Yeah,
it.
bringing it into his regime. Now, in 2026, he's criticizing Ford. You know why? Because it was Donald Trump. That's why. Biden, in 2025, all right? January, 1st or maybe January 10th. In 2025, he raised the bounty for Nicolas Maduro to $25 million. That was Biden. Nobody wants to talk about that either.
Yeah.
This isn't because of Venezuela and Maduro that we're all so upset. It's because Donald Trump did it, and there is a supernatural hatred for Donald Trump. Now, let's get into why there is a supernatural hatred for Donald Trump. And, I mean, I think it's very interesting. I always bring this guy up, and I think, it's for a good reason. Brother Donovan, once again, good teacher. He told us in school, he taught us that if you see something going on, you see a spirit, you find the spirit of the age. As a born-again, Bible-believing Christian, your job is to find the spirit of the age, and whatever that spirit's going towards, you turn around, you go completely the opposite way. You fight that spirit. So what's the spirit of the age right now? We're all going back towards Rome, we're all going back towards ecumenicism, and we're all going back towards a one-world, global religion, global... everything will be global, and you can't have a patriot. You can't have a nationalistic man. You can't have a strong nationalistic country. You can't have a Donald Trump. So we got to get rid of him. And that spirit is in all of them.
Yep. And what has stood in the way of a one world government for the past however long? What stood in the way?
Yeah.
The United States
One
of
country.
America. The United States of America and the people of the United States of America, that because of the Bible and because of our Christian founding and because of the way we were founded, have a spirit of individualism. These people that don't even understand why they feel the way they do, but it's because of the effect of the Bible has had on our country, this spirit of individualism. And you look at when COVID happened, what did Americans do? In Australia, what did they do? They packed up everybody and said, stay in your house, don't do. You know what happened whenever in America when that happened? People started building onto their houses. People starting podcasts. They start doing all these things. Why? Because America has a spirit of individuality and a spirit of there's a conquering spirit that Americans have, and they've had it for 250 years. And the ecumenicalism and is taking that and hijacking it and turning it into turning into this one world point towards the Roman Catholic Church is where it's going.
Yeah, the universal church, one world.
And right now you've got people that are, because of Charlie Kirk and everything, that people are turning back towards Christianity to an extent, which is great, except for the fact that we can see where it's going. We know.
A lot of them are turning back to Catholicism.
Yeah, and it's going back to Catholicism. And you look at the contemporary effeminate spirit of Christianity that's been in America for the past 50 or so years. It's been growing and growing. How many people you see, especially men, that are seeing how something's wrong with that? Because naturally, as a man, you just don't like something's up with this. It's all this super high production. We're spending millions of dollars on the production of a Christmas play, and like, why are we doing this? Well, this doesn't make any sense. Why is the church doing this? And they're going to look at this, and then what's the other side of that? Catholicism, Orthodoxy, Eastern Orthodox, all this stuff. And so what they're going to do is instead of coming to the right conclusion of biblical Christianity, they're going to go completely to the other side, and it's going to go back to the Roman Catholic Church. And eventually in America, it's going to go to a one world government. And when the Roman Catholic Church is going to be in power, that's how they can take down America. Because America is not just going to give up Americans don't give up their freedom for nothing. But if they're Catholics, and you have the Vicar of Christ sitting on the Pope's seat,
yeah, they'll give it up.
They'll give it up. And they're not going to do it any other way.
That's what it's all about. Right. The Pope was interested in getting his claws on America all the way back in the days of its inception. And it's been slowly infiltrated. And now, truth be told, the Republican Party is filling up with them. Yep. And you got Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and J.D. Vance even. Yep. You got all these guys who are becoming Roman Catholics. Tucker Carlson was Episcopalian, which ain't much better, but he's now Catholic now. Candace Owens got baptized a couple years ago or whatever. Yep. He's a Roman Catholic now.
Who grew up evangelical, probably saved.
And now
is a Roman Catholic Church and hates Israel and hates the Jews. Yep.
So there will be two people on the outs in this new one world global thing. The Christians and the Jews. So once the Christians are gone, all the attention is going to be
turning back to postmillennialism. Even the guys that are not Catholic are postmillennial, which means what? Bringing in the kingdom. Bringing the kingdom.
Bringing the Antichrist.
Yeah, they're going to bring in the Antichrist. And whenever the Antichrist shows up, Everyone's going to look around and be like, here's the guy.
Yeah, here's
Here's
the
the guy
guy.
that's bringing it all together. It's Jesus Christ incarnate. They're going to think he's
Yeah,
Jesus
he's
Christ.
nice. He's a hippie. He loves everybody. He's conquering
The
through
Muslims
peace.
are going to be like, this is what's
The Mahdi.
the Mahdi. They're going to think that. The Roman Catholics are going to be like, this is Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
this is the true vicar of Christ.
We brought in the kingdom, and here it is. And he's going to stand. And who's going to be the outliers? The Jews.
Jews.
And everyone's going to turn on the Jews.
Yep. And then someone will show up and say, "Oh, actually, I'm the Messiah too. I may have a different name. Jesus said, I'd come in my Father's name and you didn't receive me. If another comes in his own name, him you will receive. He'll come in his own name, but they'll still fall for it for a little while until it's too late at that point. But that's where it's all going. So that's why you're seeing this hatred for Donald Trump. Now, there's a lot of people suggesting that Donald Trump is the Antichrist, that he's some biblical character, he's the Antichrist. Let me just throw a quick rebuttal of this out. Because I don't have a lot of time to spend on this. I want to get into my Trump and Cyrus connection, but first of all, we're not there on the eschatological scale. We're nowhere near that yet. And I'm not saying like the rapture is far off. I think it's very, very soon. I think it's imminent. I'm just saying we're not on the eschatological scale yet to have the Antichrist show up. So, Daniel chapter 2.
Because of Bible believing Christians.
Because of Bible believing Christians. In Daniel chapter 2, you got that prophecy of the image. Now, on that fourth beast, or that fourth metal on the image, it's Rome, right? Now, Rome was in power during Jesus Christ's first advent. People like to say, oh, that was pagan Rome, papal Rome so much better. Papal Rome is worse. They've killed far more Christians. Read Fox's Book of Martyrs. Go get that book right now. Anyways, pagan Rome turns into papal Rome, and that's going to connect those 2 feet of iron and clay. It's still Rome. We're still dealing with Rome. The Roman Empire never fell. It just converted from a pagan empire into a papal empire. It's still here. All right. Now you have to have 10 horns or 10 toes come out of that Roman kingdom before the Antichrist even shows up. So if Donald Trump is the Antichrist, where are the 10 kings? Where are they? They're not here yet. He's not the Antichrist.
Right.
Those 10 kings have to be there. He's a little horn that comes up out of the 10 horns, and then he supplants 3 of them, takes 3 of them out. We're nowhere near that yet. The Roman Empire is not revived in a visible manifestation of 10 kings yet. Has not happened. Second of all, the ethnicity is off. He's called the Horn of Moab in Jeremiah. Judas Iscariot was a Moabite Syrian Jew. He's Judas Iscariot. Iscariot means Ishkarioth, man of Kirioth. Kirioth is in Moab. He was your greatest type of Antichrist because he was called the son of perdition. And of course, the Antichrist in 2 Thessalonians is the son of perdition. So it has something to do with Judas. But so you've got a Syrian connection there. You've got a Jewish connection. He's called the wicked and profane prince of Israel. The Jews will not, or the Antichrist will not regard the God of his fathers. There's some Jewish heritage there. He's called the king of the north in Daniel chapter 11. Has a connection to the old kingdom of Assyria somehow. Basically, we're nowhere on the eschatological scale yet. I believe it will be soon. You're working with 6,000 years of human history. There's 6 days of creation that match it. The sun shows up on day 4. Jesus Christ showed up at 4000 BC. 7th day, God rests. There's your millennial rest. So the last 1,000 years, which makes up 7,000, will be the millennial rest. So where he's reigning on this earth. So we're running out of time very, very quickly. But he's no longer. We're nowhere near that yet. There has to be those 10 horns first, and he comes up among them. He comes up as a little horn. He comes up as a nobody. Okay, the mystery of godliness was Jesus Christ was a nobody. He was a carpenter's son. It'll be the same thing with the Antichrist. The mystery of iniquity. They'll parallel. Satan imitates. He's not going to show up as the president of the United States, and he conquers without any arrows. Because that bowman in Revelation 6 has no arrows. He comes in, he obtains the kingdom by flatteries. He's going to come in by peace first before he actually starts getting to armed conflict and war. So it's not Donald Trump. However, there is a biblical character that Trump parallels very closely. And that's King Cyrus of Persia. So, King Cyrus, around 444, 445 BC, there's a decree to go rebuild Jerusalem and rebuild the temple. Artaxerxes had a lot to do with that too. Technically, that decree in 444 to 445 BC was Artaxerxes, but that's shown in Nehemiah chapter 2. But before that, Cyrus is the one who's heading this up, all right? He's the head of the Medo-Persian Empire. He's the one who's sending the Jews back to Israel. So I think it's interesting that Donald Trump, on his first term, moves the embassy to Jerusalem. Then next you have, in Isaiah, there's a prophecy saying that I will raise him up in righteousness, speaking of Cyrus, and he will do all this. He will let my people go and all that back to Israel, not for price nor reward. Now guess what chapter that is? Chapter 45. Donald Trump was the 45th president.
Interesting parallel.
Interesting parallel. I mean, it may be nothing, but I mean, it continues to build, and there's definitely something to it. So, the 45th president became the president not for price nor reward. There was no salary. It gets better. Next thing you got is you have differing accounts of how Cyrus died, but it's interesting that there's many accounts that depict Cyrus being killed in battle, and Queen Tomris, who was a rival of his, she had lost her son to Cyrus's army. Cyrus apparently had made them all drunk somehow, and sent them this gift and made them all drunk, and they were easily defeated. And he ended up committing suicide because he was embarrassed by how easily Cyrus defeated him. Anyways, she wanting revenge goes in war against Cyrus, and he ends up getting slain in the battle, and he gets beheaded. And there's a lot of Renaissance art and a lot of Victorian art that depicts her as a red-haired, pale-skinned woman with blue eyes holding up a head of Cyrus the Great, and she said that she dipped it in blood because she wanted to make him drink blood for the death of her son. Now, a lot of historians say that there was other ways that he died. We're not sure if this is accurate or not, but regardless, that's the most popular account of King Cyrus and his death. 2017, comedian Kathy Griffin posted a picture of herself holding up Donald Trump's head dipped in blood. She got fired from CNN for it. Anderson Cooper, I think, was involved in that, her getting fired. Once again, interesting parallel. This woman has red hair, pale skin, blue eyes. We'll put those clips up as well so you guys can see that. And it continues to get better. Look it up on Wikipedia. Look up King Cyrus and his standard. You know what you're going to find? You're going to find a red banner with a gold eagle. Now, you go look up that Trump official card, that credit card that he put out in 2021. You're going to have a red credit card with a gold eagle. Look up how many pictures you can find of Donald Trump speaking and doing some sort of conference, and he's speaking off of a podium with a gold eagle on it.
Yeah.
Now, it gets better. Of course, he moved the embassy to Jerusalem. It was floated to him back in, I want to say June or July. Someone will have to go look this up. One of his press secretaries was asked by a Jewish rabbi in the congregation, is Donald Trump making preparations to rebuild the Third Temple? So, if Cyrus issued a decree, of course, Cyrus is well renowned, by the way, or renowned for his buildings and for his construction projects. The palaces and the gardens of Persia were magnificent through Cyrus the Great. Make America great again. He's even called Cyrus the Great somewhere in the Bible. So there's a lot of interesting parallels. But that red standard, that gold eagle, that's an interesting connection. In the end of the war in 2025 with Gaza, do you know what they put on somewhere in Jerusalem, they were flying a big banner on their building. And it's a big picture of Donald Trump clapping his hands. And above his head, there's a swirling Israeli and American flag together. And it says, Cyrus the Great is alive. I'll look up above your head. You see that? You see that coin I got displayed up there? Yeah, that right there. And I'll put a closer image on the screen. That's a temple coin that the Jews put out in about 2018, and it says, "Here, grab that for me, and you can read it. You can read it to everybody."
On the back,
it should be on the front there.
It says to fulfill 70 years, and then on the, I don't know, it says, and he charged me to build him a house in Jerusalem. A house in Jerusalem. The shining light. I couldn't really see it.
Yeah, and so on that coin, you've got a picture of Trump and Cyrus together. You got the candlestick of the temple right above their heads. You got the Persian crest on one side, the American crest on the other, and then you have that he charged him to build me a house in Jerusalem. Yeah. So that's interesting. So we have a lot of interesting parallels here. So I'm not saying that Donald Trump is 100% a type of King Cyrus, but I think there's something to it. Okay. And I think that's why there's a lot of satanic hatred for him, because of what he's doing. It's mainly for Israel. Then also you start looking at, if we run with this theory, look at that ram in Daniel chapter 8 that represents Medo-Persia. The one horn's higher than the other, got Cyrus and Darius. When he's destroyed, who destroys that ram and takes away his power? It's Alexander the Great. And Alexander the Great, who is that rough goat, he's the goat, but yet he's also the horn on the goat. Because when that horn splinters, 4 horns go in each direction. There's just the 4 splinters of Alexander's kingdom, and out of one of those, most likely Assyria, comes the little horn, which is the Antichrist. So he's a little horn out of Assyria, or some splinter of Alexander's empire, and yet he's also a little horn out of Rome. So it's like he's got a Catholic and Muslim connection at the same time, which is interesting. But that's besides the point. The point is that if Trump is the type of Cyrus, well, then who's coming next? Who will be the next big, world leader?
Great.
Alexander the Great. Great. great type of the Antichrist. He died at 32 years old. There was accounts of him being homosexual or at least bisexual. And of course, we know the Antichrist will not regard the desire of women.
Yep.
And then, most interestingly enough, his mother said that he wasn't fully human because his father was Zeus. His father was not Philip II. His father was Zeus. Now, whether that's true or not, a lot of queens were into this, where they tried to, it's a weird connection, where they tried to make their king sound like he's a god incarnate.
Yeah.
Where are they getting that from? They're getting that from the whole Antichrist Lucifer connection. You have Zeus and Apollo. You got Osiris and Horus.
Yeah.
You got Baal and Ashtaroth, and then Tammuz.
Which is all Genesis 6 stuff.
Yeah, it's all Genesis 6 stuff. It's all, female goddess and the dragon and the whore. And then here comes the Antichrist, mystery of iniquity. Anyway, so yeah, she said that he was, whether it's true or not, she said that he wasn't fully human, and that he was the son of Zeus. And Zeus basically is Lucifer. He's Baal. These are all different names for the same being. So a lot of connections here between Cyrus and Trump. So if Trump does rebuild the third temple, which I think there's a lot of evidence that he will.
I think he will too.
I think that would
heard it here first.
I think that would solidify that he is the third carpenter.
Yeah.
And then we can get into the whole carpenter. Look in Zechariah chapter 1. I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, it's laid out. We got to quit here, but lay it out real quick. You've got 4 horns, and these are the 4 horns which have scattered Jerusalem, Judah, and Israel. So the first one can't be Assyria, because Assyria never scattered Israel or Judah and Jerusalem. They only conquered the northern tribe of Israel. So if you make the first one Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, who scattered Jerusalem specifically and destroyed it, well, there's your first horn. And then who was the first carpenter that, brought the Jews back to the land? And them being carpenters implies that they build something, right? So that would be what's his name? That would be Cyrus, right? He told them to go back to the land about, I want to say 590 BC, somewhere there. If they were taken captive in 506 and spent 70 years, somewhere along that time frame. This, by the way, this right here, the theory of the 4 carpenters, I heard this first from Matt Crane, so I'm going to give the credit to him for that, and not to myself. I didn't come up with the 4 carpenter thing. This was kind of his work. But anyways, so you have that, and then you have Antiochus Epiphanes, right? There would be your second horn, and Judas Maccabeus, who defeated him and frayed the previous horn. Mm-hmm. So then in 70 AD, Rome destroys the temple. Well, the Roman Empire is still here. It's in a mystery form, and they've lost a lot of their power. And you notice how, a man's calves, well, not mine maybe, but most men's calves are a lot bigger than their ankle, right? So the kingdom appears very powerful, and then
which is an interesting.
It's going down. It's an interesting comparison. And then here show up the feet with the 10 toes,
which puts the third carpenter as
whoever's going to rebuild that temple, whoever maybe moved the embassy to Jerusalem. A lot of connections to Donald Trump. Yeah. And if Donald Trump is that third carpenter, well, who's the last and fourth horn? It'd be the Antichrist, who will show up as maybe type of Alexander the Great right after Cyrus. He'll scatter the Jews one more time, and then the carpenter's son, even though he wasn't the son of Joseph, he's called that in the Bible, the carpenter's son.
The Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ would show up, and he would rebuild that fourth and final temple, and you'd have your millennial rest.
I said the Antichrist is the fourth carpenter. The Antichrist scatters the Jews.
Yeah, one last time.
And then Jesus Christ builds the final temple, which is Revelation chapter 20.
Yeah, and then there's Ezekiel, I think.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there, Ezekiel sees that vision of that final
Revelation
temple.
20 when he sets up his kingdom.
I think so, yeah. Revelation 19 is the second advent with the king on the white horse, so that'll probably be Revelation 20. But that's all we have for you guys today, but some stuff to think about. Don't get on the wrong side of these issues, and pay attention to the spirits. The people who are protesting this whole ICE thing right now, who are so upset about it, they're a bunch of anarchists. They just surrounded a hotel in I can't remember where that hotel was at, in Minneapolis. Yep. And just destroying things, burning American flags, smashing cop cars, whatever you think about that woman getting shot the other day. I'll just say this. There's new footage that just came out from the guy's body cam or his phone. He did get hit. She was using her vehicle. She was breaking the law, first of all. All right? You blocking traffic is illegal. It's illegal in almost every circumstance, in almost every single place in the United States. It's illegal to block traffic. Then to flee when the cops pursue you on something illegal that you've done is also illegal. And then to use your vehicle, she may not have been trying to kill him, and I honestly don't really think she was trying to kill him. But you're still using your vehicle in a manner to recklessly endanger an officer's life. That same officer had been hit and dragged by another vehicle only a month before. So we're seeing a pattern here. Yeah. We're seeing people that, they're fed up with what they're having to deal with. Maybe he jumped the gun a little bit too soon with, pulling out a gun and shooting her. But the point is he was doing his job. When I was 18, I was speeding through a town called Dayton, and I was going about 20 miles over the speed limit. Okay, I was pulled over and treated like a criminal. I had 8 cop cars on me. They thought I stole the car. It was a Florida license plate going through a Tennessee town. And I was treated like an absolute criminal. I had to get out of the car. I had to put my hands on my head. I had to get handcuffed and thrown in the back of the car. And all the cops were all, kind of heckling me and asking me where I worked. And when I told them what I was doing, they were like, yeah, sure. You know what I did? I cooperated with them.
Right.
I completely cooperated with them. And they weren't really right to treat me that way. That's the authority. You can't find one reference where Jesus Christ says that you should be an anarchist or you should be, protesting. And it's not protesting peacefully. Blocking traffic, harassing police officers, preventing them from doing their duties, breaking windows, burning flags. Nothing about that is peaceful.
100%. And it comes back to what we've been talking about. This whole thing is the position is you can understand that cops do wrong, and you might be right. In your case, you were right, and you were treated probably incorrectly.
Yeah.
And you can peacefully protest, but Romans 13 or 14 talks about the powers of be.
Romans 13.
Romans 13, the powers of be are ordained of God. We have a biblical precedent and a right and a obligation as a Christian to follow the law. I mean, even Jesus Christ said, "Render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's."
Yep.
And we can sit here and talk.
Caesar was awful. So all these people are saying, Jesus wouldn't have said that under Trump's reign, really?
Yeah.
Because the Roman Empire, you get into the stuff with Caesar and Nero, who was in charge during Paul's days and even into Christ's days. He was having Christians burned in his garden as human torches.
100%. He's way worse.
He's way worse.
And we can protest and raise on taxes. We can still be Americans. We can follow the law, and we can use the freedoms that have been given to change the laws to benefit Christians and benefit Americans. And we can be against people that are against the things that we're against. But we don't have a right as American to just disregard the law. I mean, biblically, we don't have the right as a Christian to do so. We're supposed to follow the laws.
Yeah.
We're commanded to follow the laws.
Yeah, the only time we're ever supposed to disobey the law is if we are told to, not name the name of Jesus Christ anymore. You can't read your Bible anymore. Or as Daniel, you can't pray anymore towards the God of heaven. Right. Okay, at that point, we should obey God rather than men. But up to that point, if AOC gets in 2028, you know what I'm going to be? A law-abiding citizen. I'm not going to like it, but I'm going to be a law-abiding citizen.
I'll stand against what she's doing, and everything that I feel like is wrong, I'll protest against it as far as peacefully. And we're not saying you can't do that. But it comes into, the issue comes down to, as a Bible-believing Christian, is you have to do right by the Bible. We still have to be Bible-believing Christian no matter what happens in America. But we can still love America. We can still follow the laws. We can push and proclaim the reality of what our biblical founding was, and we can still be pro-Trump in the sense the things that he does right, and we can still, for him being for the Jews, we can do all these things as Americans, and we're not compromising our stance on Bible-believing issues. We're not compromising on the King James Bible. We're still soul winning. We're still preaching on the street, and we're still proclaiming the name of Jesus Christ. And you can be a Bible-believing Christian, and you can still love America and be a patriot, and you can still follow the laws. And there's a discernment and a balance that we have to have as Christians. And there's a ditch on both sides of every issue. And as people, we tend to go from one extreme to the other because we see something wrong over here, and we go here. And if you do that, you're going to end up see everything wrong with the evangelical church and the contemporary effeminate church that we have in America, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to go back to the Catholic Church, which is the wrong assumption that you're supposed to make. You're supposed to be a Bible-believing Christian is here. We understand that's wrong, but Catholics are wrong too, and they're tyrannical and have been for the past 2,000 years, or for really 1,500 years. And they can't be tyrannical now, but when they were in power, they were.
Yeah, and they will be again.
And they will be again, and they will be again. Yeah, and the Bible-believing position is to stand on what the Bible says and commend what's right and disdain and call out what's wrong. That's the Bible-believing position on every single issue. And if you do like Jesus Christ did, and like we talked about earlier, you have grace with people that are contrite and have the right attitude, and you deal with Pharisees as they are Pharisees. You have to have, as a Bible Christian, you have to be able to have an answer for the Pharisees and a rebuke for the Pharisees.
Yeah.
But you also have to, just because someone's wrong doesn't mean that you just beat them over the head with the scripture.
Grace.
You have to have grace and you have to have compassion. And Jesus Christ had compassion. That's how he was. But he also treated the Pharisees the same way that they gave him. And so you have to have discernment. And the only way that you get that is through the direction of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And that's the main thing, was what we've talked about this whole time, is you have to be filled with the Spirit, and you have to be serving the Lord, and you have to be prayed up. You have to read your Bible every day. All these things, as a Christian, as a Bible-believing Christian that we believe in, that is what's going to give you the right discernment on these issues. And that doesn't mean you're ever going to be wrong. And we can be wrong about certain things too. Or we can be wrong about anything, if we're not following the Bible.
Yeah.
But I believe with all my heart that that's the Bible-believing stance on every single one of these issues.
And pray. The day before I was finding out all this stuff about Trump and seeing these connections, I said, you know what, Lord, I could be wrong. I'm not exempt from deception. I could be the one that's wrong about Trump. Some of these other Bible believers who are getting more and more, against, what's going on in this country, and, against, what they call the Zionist movement and all this stuff. What if they're right? What if I'm the one that's wrong? I can get deceived like anybody else. Do you guys pray that prayer? Lord, show me the truth here.
Yeah.
All these people who are like, oh, Trump's the Antichrist, Trump's bad, America's bad, this is going on, the Jews, blah, blah. Are you guys praying that prayer?
Yeah.
Are you
show
looking?
Show me the truth.
Yeah, if you have that attitude, God will show you the truth. But some people just want to be, I just want to hate when I want to hate, love when I want to love.
Yeah,
I don't want to hear it.
They have an emotional
reaction.
And which is what, as Bible believers, we preach against.
No.
Don't have an emotional reaction. If you are reacting off emotion alone, you're going to get messed up. The heart is deceitful, desperately wicked. Who can know it? Your heart can mess you up. And if you don't have your heart in line, David said, create in me a clean heart, oh God. Renew a right spirit within me. And that should be our prayer. Is God, give me the discernment, give me the wisdom. The Bible says, I think it's James, he said, if any man lack wisdom,
I'm asking God to give to all men liberally and upbraideth not.
Yeah. So he'll give you the wisdom if you just ask him. If you ask him for the wisdom on these decisions, not just your position on political and spiritual events going on in the world, but just your everyday life. And that's what this podcast is about. From you is about doing something for the Lord Jesus Christ and staying busy for God. And whenever he shows up for our rapture and we're raptured out of here, let him not find us idle.
Yeah. I want to hear, well done, thou good and faithful servant.
100%.
And so we're going to be busy until he comes, and we're going to look for it. We're going to be excited about it and hope he comes soon. And we're looking for the real Jesus Christ to show up, not this Roman Catholic phony that probably will here soon. And one more thing here, and we'll close this out and finish this up, is it's something that came to mind when you were talking, is when Jesus Christ is in the garden with his disciples, and the Roman soldiers and Jews Iscariot come to take them, you know what they do? Well, Peter, like any real man, is like, I'm going to protect the Lord, I'm going to protect my friends, draws a sword, and Jesus Christ tells them, no, we're not doing that right now. And they let him take him. Right. So for all these people who are, saying, oh, well, ISIS is so horrible, we should go out there and we should, harass them and fight them and all this stuff, and it's, it's anti-Christian, and Jesus wouldn't round up, a bunch of immigrants and all this stuff. Jesus Christ allowed himself and his disciples, whom he loved, to all get taken by the soldiers and by Judas Iscariot. Of course, the disciples fled, but he literally told Peter, we're not going to do that. You know why? Because my kingdom, the spiritual or the physical kingdom that is going to come is not yet. All the commentators miss that reference when Jesus Christ is standing before, it's either Annas or Caiaphas, and he says, my kingdom is not now. It's not right now, but it will be one day. At that point, then you can physically fight for
in Revelation 19.
Believe. Revelation 19, Jesus Christ is coming back not to save the world, but he's coming back to condemn it this time. Yeah. The first time he came to save it and not condemn it, now he's coming back to condemn it, not save it.
And that's going to be when we...
And the only person... the only entity he is going to save is Israel, and so all Israel shall be saved. There will come out of Zion a deliverer, because that's what the whole Bible is about. It's about Jesus Christ. It's about the King of the Jews and the physical kingdom, which is Israel. So, guys, get busy, do something for the Lord, follow the laws, no matter who's in charge, unless they tell you to do something that's against the Bible, against something Jesus Christ specifically said, like worshiping and praying and all that stuff. Obey the laws. We're not anarchists, and we're not promoting that. But Stephen Butts, thanks for coming on, and I'll have you on again.